Some 2016 talk now. Several media reports last week saying that Governor Walker is plotting the possible rollout of a campaign for president next summer. Another potential candidate, Republican Congressman Paul Ryan, is set to take chairmanship of the powerful House Ways and Means Committee. We're talking about what this means with Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel Washington Bureau Chief Craig Gilbert. Craig, good to have you on the program again. First, let's talk about the governor. Boy, a lot of media coverage this week suggesting strongly that he is likely to get into this race.
Yeah, in some ways he really seems to have pivoted to 2016 without wasting too much time. I mean, I think the perception has been for a long time that this is something he wanted to do. He obviously had to sort of pass a big test in terms of winning his re-election by, in a somewhat convincing way, which he did. So he is positioned to make this run. There's all sorts of things that could happen between now and then, and every potential 2016 candidate has their pluses and minuses, but he's kind of, he's been sort of inching his way toward the top of everyone's list of plausible potential Republican candidates. He's been making the case, Craig, that a governor is what this country needs, somebody who has run something. But there are a number of Republican governors who fit that bill. How does he stack up compared to the other possible competitors? Well, a lot of them were on the same stage this past week when the Republican Governors Association met in Florida. You have Chris Christie, of course, in New Jersey, who's the chairman of that organization, winning in a very Democratic state, big kind of blustery personality. Some issue differences with the Republican base. You've got John Kasich from Ohio, who another battleground state, but a very different kind of election than Scott Walker's. He's a less divisive figure. He won by a bigger margin, and he got crossover votes from Democrats. He didn't have the same big gender gap that Governor Walker had. And then, of course, Governor Walker's got his own unique story to tell, winning 3 elections in a purple to blue state, 3 elections in 4 years. He's become kind of a hero to the Republican base. So he's going to carry those pluses and minuses with him into a potential run. I think if you look at his election history, it shows that he can do great with Republican base voters, and he can do well in a swing state in a midterm election. But beyond that, how well he can do attracting independents and crossover voters in a presidential election is the unanswered question. Craig, briefly, the other big news involving a possible 2016 candidate is the news that Paul Ryan is now going to be the chair of the House Ways and Means Committee. Does that tell us anything about what his presidential ambitions might be? Well, I think he's perceived as being less likely to run now for a couple of reasons. One is that this has been his dream job. I mean, the House Ways and Means Committee is arguably the most powerful committee in this Republican Congress, and it has jurisdiction over all the issues that Ryan cares about, like taxes and entitlements. So he's kind of arrived he's realizing an ambition that he's had for a very long time. And secondly, it's not easy to do that job while you're running for president. He'd actually have to get a waiver from a new Republican House rule that requires chairmen to give up their gavel if they're running for another office. So it doesn't mean he can't run, and it doesn't mean he doesn't want to run. It just means that I think it's a different picture than it is for Governor Walker, and a lot of people at this point would be actually surprised if he did run. Craig Gilbert is the Washington Bureau Chief for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. It's good to have you on the program, Craig. Thanks very much. Anytime. Coming up next, what we've learned since the election.